Even if I knew every scales and arpeggios, I still couldn't improvise. That's because you could have every tool in the set. That doesn't make you an artist, not until you own your skill. So I'll show you the mental shift and actionable steps that got me from improv that sounds like scales to simple but memorable leads. And you'll leave the video with a step-by-step template on how you can do this on your own. Step 1. How do you know what to play when soloing? I usually answer that with another question. How often do you listen to the same solo on repeat? That's stupid. What does that have to do with playing leads? That is not a coincidence that every capable lead player I know has spent an impossible amount of time listening to their favorite leads. Now for me, that did two things. It trained my ears to the relation between the chords and the lead that was being played. I wasn't thinking about intervals, but I was hearing them. I was downloading the pattern. For example, when I heard this lick over G minor, I didn't know it was a triad yet, but I knew that it sounded great over that chord. Second, it helped me write entire solos. For example, most popular leads out there follow a similar template. You know, we start with emotional bends, drop lower with a pentatonic lick, then usually an ascending shred lick to build momentum, then another melodic line, and we go down a bit, but not as much as we did the first time. Then we go a bit higher, very emotional, another shred going down, not as low as before though. And then the climax would go higher, usually with a blues lead. Now, how can I come up with that stuff on the fly? I'm not more talented than you, but all the solos that I've obsessed over the years, they've forged my taste, my ear. And that's also why I can, hear a chord like this G minor, and I hear different leads coming. Na 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 na. Now, if you cannot do this yet, you're not doomed, right? Just start deep listening to heavily melodic music, stuff that you like. It's gonna come over time. You don't need perfect pitch to do this. You need relative pitch, like I got. And the good news is, it can be learned and developed. Second, every guy that comes to me saying, I don't know how to improvise or play lead, they have the same problem. They don't have any licks. Here's one of my licks that I plug everywhere. Like John Mayer said, I don't want to play this all the time, but it's there if I need it. When learning improv, it's very easy to be overwhelmed by the amount of thinking we have to do while playing. Because while you're playing, you need to have an idea for the next bar that's coming. That's one of the reasons why having a fat stacked library of licks is important, because you can play those without thinking about them while you're thinking about something else. I can do certain things without thinking about them too much, and I can talk while doing this because I've done it a lot. Now, I don't practice talking and playing, but the better I got at playing these licks, the better I got at nailing the changes between bars, between chords. Second reason, the more licks you learn, the easier it is to build your own licks. Like Marty Friedman played that lick in Symphony of Destruction. That lick alone has probably created my entire style, because I've moved it around all over the place and created dozens of other cool licks of my own. I started very small, moving it around the E-shaped chord. This is a template of safe notes to play that I use to teach soloing concepts to guys that don't know their scales yet. You basically just move your licks around using these notes. Sometimes you're gonna hate what you hear, and that's fine. We move things around, we create new licks. Some licks are gonna be average, some are gonna be crap, but some are gonna be great. So we're trying stuff out. We don't always win, but we always learn. Step 3, we all go through this phase where our leads kind of sound like boring scales. That's because we don't have any notion of chord tones. Now, usually that's where I would tell you to learn triads all over the neck, but you don't have time for this, so I'm gonna teach you a trick that made my solos a lot more connected to the chords without learning any new theory. In my E-shaped chord, aka the regular barred chord, I have the same 3 notes repeated a bunch of times. And all the notes you need to reference the chord, they're right here on the first 3 strings. All the spicy notes you want to play, they're around them, half a step or a step away, right? Now, if I want to stick my melody to that chord, I'll make sure that at least 2 of these notes are in my lick. And now this is the game changer. Whenever I change chord, I can't play the same lick. It's gonna sound stupid. But I can follow that chord's E shape. And if I really want to sell it, I'll play all 3 notes into a bend. Now do you see that you don't need crazy theory to have solid emotional leads, but you do have to get better at the tools you already have. Now to keep progressing further, you could start moving this with other chord shapes. Now the cage system is fantastic for that. I got a guy, I'll hook you up. Step 4, what do all great solos have in common? Tension and release. Chord tones might be your best tool, but if you stick with them too much, it's gonna sound predictable. Kind of like paint by numbers. I don't want to turn this video into an interval class, but just know that non-chord tones are going to create tension that's going to be released when we resolve on a chord tone. A very simple way to explain this is using suspended chords. I got this A minor here. So I'm adding the 2 here. Where's that 2 going, right? It needs to resolve somewhere, either to a 3 or back to 1. Same thing with the 4. This regular, I'm adding the 4. Where am I going? Joe Satriani is famous for holding tension for a long time. If you want specific exercises, start with a 1-chord backing track and practice short phrasing. Start a lick on a chord tone, ending on a non-chord tone, so you're leaving with tension, or the opposite. Start with tension with a non-chord tone, resolving on a chord tone. Next step, you do this with a 2-chord backing track. Do you want to have tension on the first chord and then resolve with the second chord, or the opposite? Start the second chord with a lot of tension, try everything. Phrasing is the #1 secret to improv. Now, I could have started with this at the beginning, but nobody's born with great phrasing. You need to develop it, and these steps, they help you get there. Challenge of the week! Search for a song or a lick you like here on YouTube and learn that lick. Then move it around the chord shapes, making it your own and creating dozens of new licks. Now, the first step to expand what we've learned today is to learn more chord shapes so you can apply this all over the neck. The cage system is the best way to do this, and that video will hook you up. Guys, I appreciate you watching the whole thing. Cheers.